and I can drive.
Okay, you drive, and then I mean, I sort of chickened out and made slides, but I can do a live demo if that's more fun. Okay, but anyway, yeah, sorry to not be in person. I've just been teaching hundreds of undergraduates how to program. All right, next slide. Okay, so what are we trying to do? So we are trying to make it easy to shop for data within AnVIL. So it's, you can see the URL here. You can't see my mouse, but explore.anvil.project.org. So you can go to the AnVIL Data Explorer, which is that link, right? So what I'm describing here is the user journey. Okay, so user goes to explore.anvilproject.org. They go to the data browser, as I'll show you in a second. You, through that system, can apply to and gain access as appropriate using systems like Duos. And then having gained access, you can export the cohort across to Cavatica. And in the process, this is sort of transparent to the user, but you are passing a PFB manifest file, which goes, essentially it's a handshake that's taking place. And then Sora will take over. You can then do the analysis on your data within Cavatica. That is the user journey we're providing, and what that will give essentially is allow users to take any one of the large number of AnVIL data sets and potentially analyze those alongside data that they can get from Kids First, which I think is tremendously exciting and should make that whole process much simpler. So next slide. So what does the AnVIL Data Explorer look like? Well, without I'll go through this very briefly, but basically it's a faceted search browser. It provides access to both managed and open access data. Currently, it provides export to the Terra environment that's used by AnVIL, as I'm sure many of you know. It also allows for some download using request to pays in some instances. And coming soon, this is just very recently agreed, we will also have all of the open access data with more than a petabyte of data also provided through the Amazon Web Services Open Data program. So essentially, it will be free to egress that data from AnVIL to any computer cloud you want, which is super exciting. And it's worth saying that the AnVIL Data Explorer is one instance of what we call the UCSC Data Explorer, which is powering both AnVIL, but also the LungMap project and the Human Cell Atlas. So common interface, different facets, different metadata, but common interface across those high impact projects. The next slide. And yeah, just to show you what the applying for access looks like, on the left-hand side sort of inset here, you can see a window of the data browser. Clicking on the link to a specific data set will bring up a description of that data set, and that if you hit the request access, I'm sorry if it's a little bit small on the screen here, but that will bring you up a link to either apply to the appropriate DAC essentially, and that's either through Duos, the Broad's Duos system, or through dbGaP, depending on the data set and the access requirements. And yep, that's we are expecting RAS support later this year as well. Okay, then very briefly, I'm just going to click through a few of the features here. So next slide. So yeah, the Data Explorer looks roughly like this. If you open it up, you can see each row represents a data set. Next slide. There are views of this that show it from sort of donors, biosamples, and individual files. So you can kind of go shopping for individual elements, not just at the level of data sets. This is a true kind of like cohort builder. Next slide. And we are currently indexing more than 1 million files. So when we're done here, it's a really huge trove of data. I believe with the next data release, we're approaching 7 petabytes of data that are being served through AnVIL that will then be accessible in Cavatica, which is amazing. Next slide. Hitting up the filter, next slide, gives you access to a relatively minimal metadata schema that allows you to search by, for example, diagnosis, ethnicity, sex, etc., to try and find the kinds of data that you want, so different kinds of files and so forth, to allow you to shop for data. And to be really clear, when you are sub-selecting from the different facets, you are potentially selecting different subsets of the data that you can then apply for access to. Next slide. So for example, clicking on this one particular project will bring up, next slide, sorry, too much clicking. We'll bring up the details page for that particular data set. And like I said, you can then apply for access to that data set. Next slide. And here I'm showing you one that I do have access to. So this is a data set. It's actually an open access data set from the CARD project. And if you hit so you see that little green access granted button on the left-hand side, that tells you that you've already got permission. So instead of requesting access, you'll see an export button. You click export for that. And that brings up an option to analyze that data in Terra, create a manifest potentially for download. And for the open access datasets, shortly that will default to using the AWS Open Data. So you'll be able to actually download that to your host institution. But in addition, I think super exciting, the middle option, next slide. This one, yeah. Sorry for the crude highlighting that I've gone here. This is a mock-up. I should be really clear. This is not yet in production, but we're just sort of working through the mocks. You will have an option to analyze that data set within Cavatica. So you'll click on that button, and that will then take you through a couple more options to sub-select particular files and things, and then you will be able to take that manifest and automatically transfer that into the Cavatica platform. And then next slide. There's a number of things that need to happen behind the scenes here. This is all, dealing with managed access data. So there's a security component to this, security and compliance piece that we are just at the process of finally reviewing and getting approval on. That's really been the kind of long pole in the tent in terms of making sure that we have an ATO to do this. Then there are a number of other things coming along, including improving the metadata that's in the file so that when we hand the data across to Cavatica, we have all that rich metadata, or all the metadata that we have can be provided in a way that is useful for users when they're doing analysis within the Velsera platform. Of course, there's the RAS support that's coming along that's being worked on by the Broad, which is super exciting and will make it easier for people to sign on. Currently, people use their Google credentials, but obviously with RAS, it gets stricter. And yeah, we're definitely thinking about issues around egress and cost management. But current plan is for Cavatica to be running on GCP US Central 1, which is the same place as the Google data, the current AnVIL data is hosted. So there will be no egress for doing analysis on this data within Cavatica, which is most important. And then next slide. And I think I can hand over. Thanks.
That's a switch over. All right. Great. Any questions on this slide just before we go into the demo piece? Some things I want to highlight, the RAS. So this is a nice example of how different NCPI projects come together. So this work started off in Biodata Catalyst, and then we saw an avenue in Cavatica. So starting from, this is a mock-up which will be modified, but you'll be able to bring files through PFBs into Biodata Catalyst powered by 7 bridges into Cavatica, and potentially also CGC, Cancer Genomics Cloud. So what we are doing right now is this interconnect security agreement, which is the legal underpinning of this integration. We are adding all the Velsera platforms to it so that it enables, we don't have to repeat the whole story again for a different platform. That's the key. We are doing it once, and we do it for all the platforms. The RAS support here is very critical. It's not just on the AnVIL side, which is, of course, progressing as a part of the Biodata Catalyst, RAS integration, but Cavatica and CGC, Cancer Genomics Cloud, come under the CRDC RAS integration, which is a separate RAS integration, which is in its earlier stages. So we would need, for RAS to work, we would need RAS working on Cavatica, direct login through RAS, just like we can do in Biodata Catalyst today, and direct login through RAS and AnVIL. So all of these pieces need to come together for this to work. So this is a work in progress to show you that we are heading towards that goal. Okay, now on to piece of the demo. This is the PFB Unwrapper application, which we already have as a public app in Biodata Catalyst. But today the point of focus is Cavatica. So let me jump to Cavatica again and see if I'm still logged in, because security can, sometimes kick me out. So what will happen inside Cavatica is once a PFB file lands from AnVIL, the next step, that app I was telling you about. And so I'm going to run that same app with, so let's look at this app real quick. So that app has documentation about what does it do. It extracts data from each node of the input PFB file. So a PFB file is essentially, and there are other people here who are way more qualified than me to describe it, but it is encapsulating a complex JSON, multi-level JSON data structure. So you've got metadata, DIRS URIs, all of that pulled in together. So what this app will do is it will decompress it and populate the Cavatica project. And so let's try to run this, and I am going to select the MAGE file, the MAGE study, which Mike described this morning. Some of the DIRS URIs in this are formatted slightly differently, and we'll also select GTEX. This takes a little bit of time, but that's the fun with live demos. It takes only one file. Okay, I should do only MAGE in that case. And I'll save the selection. It'll use one CPU, which is fine. It'll create all of these files. So I'll let this run, and this is queued. It'll take about 2 minutes to run. But while that is happening, what I can do is I can go to Cavatica. I have these files already populated. This is a cooking show, right? So if I look at the PFB import directory, so this is the files that come out of this PFB unwrapper. And so this directory has all the, so inside the AnVIL data structure, all of those individual, what you saw in AnVIL in that left panel, those individual files, all of that is showing up here. The interesting piece here is this AnVIL file table, because this one, let's give it a sec, this one has the DIRS URIs for these files. And so this has, so when a researcher brings in a PFB file, they would be able to import this AnVIL file table as a DIRS manifest again. So then it'll get populated with DIRS URIs and metadata attached to it. They can pick subsections of the metadata relevant to their analysis. So, so that would be the big piece there. And these DIRS URIs are all great today. I mean, you can see them inside Cavatica, but they will start working once this RAS integration is over on both ends, on the Cavatica end and also on the AnVIL end. Then that entire flow of auth N and auth Z will take place. But we wanted to come to the team and show the progress that we are making with this app, because once you click on this button, I'm connecting dots in the air. Once you click on this button here, you will land inside Cavatica. You can select a project, and this unwrapper will start working. It'll take a few minutes, and then you will end up with all of these files with the DIRS URIs and all the metadata. So if I go back here, yeah, and with all this is the DIRS manifest which comes out of it. So this is all ready for, with the file name and other information which you can use in your analysis. So it sets up. So the goal of these two consecutive demos were to show that within the same Cavatica project, it doesn't matter where you are starting. If you are using DIRS URIs and metadata, whether it comes from a PFB file or from FHIR, you can bring it all together inside one workspace and analyze your data. That was the goal across multiple NCPI interoperability projects to show. So, so once, as I said, once the RAS integration is over, both on AnVIL side and Cavatica side, then this flow will start working in practice. But this is how it will look like to the user. Any questions?
If I may interject, I'm Ben Bizier. I'm the program manager for the UCSC Data Explorer. One of the things that's interesting here, and sort of a proof of a bunch of the different consortia sort of informally working together, the interface we're using for this verbatim PFB export was originally developed, I believe, for Biodata Catalyst to be able to share files from Gen 3 to both Terra and Biodata Catalyst 7 bridges. And we're leveraging that. We've had that implemented for a bit on the Terra side from the UCSC, or the AnVIL Data Explorer, to Terra. And what we're doing now is adding support for 7 bridges, Cavatica, and CGC. So it's our belief that that will be extremely low risk. There's always the potential for some bugs, some minor differences, but that's something we believe should work fairly smoothly. And as soon as that ISA is in place and we have the instance to test against, we'll start testing to hopefully prove my assertion is correct. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ben. And Ben. Are there any questions? If not, I think that's the end of the demo section.